We good? All right. Good morning. Name's Dan Dowdy, business coach with Built for the Trades. And this morning, I'm excited to have Kristen Deese, owner of Gulf Coast Business Coaching, live with us this morning on Facebook. Kristen, welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, this morning, we're going to be talking about really, we're in month 2 of this COVID-19 crisis. And Kristen and I both coach with businesses all over the nation. So we're seeing it progress different in different states. And today, I guess it's the first thing I want to let our viewers know is we're not licensed to give any advice towards the SBA loans or anything like that. But we do want to talk some strategy and hopefully give the people watching some things to be thinking about in their small business. Because the reality is a lot of people had cash flow to last a couple weeks. Well, now we're month 2 into this thing and people are running out of cash flow, and they're hearing a lot of talk on social media about, hey, you should have a mindset that's positive, you should be working on your business. But the reality is a lot of people are just trying to keep their doors open at this point. So Kristen, welcome to Facebook Live on this beautiful Monday morning. Thanks a lot for being here. So let's dive first into the SBA loans a little bit and just share some of your thoughts on what business owners should be looking at and thinking about and some resources that you're plugging into. So go ahead and.
Yeah, well, so as most everybody's probably heard by now, the SBA is doing a loan called the Paycheck Protection Plan. They call it the PPP for short. And basically what it is the government has backed about $350 billion in loans that the SBA is allowed to give out to small businesses. And a lot of the loans has the potential of being forgiven, basically meaning if you spend the money on certain things in your business that they're stating that it could be forgiven, meaning you didn't have to pay it back. But there's some stipulations and regulations that come along with following that or with applying for those loans and qualifying for the forgiveness. And because there's a cap, it's also time sensitive in terms of deciding whether or not you should go for it and getting your application in and finding out, where to turn your application in and which banks to use and the whole 9 yards. So time is definitely of the essence on that particular option for sure. I know we were working with one of our banks. So couple things I learned researching this over the last couple of days is not all banks are participating, and most banks will require you to have an account with them first. And a lot of them are capping the number of loans or the dollar amount that they're going to do, like each individual bank underneath that cap of what the federal is funding.
Yeah, that's true. And I know it's only forgiven if you use towards payroll costs, interest on your mortgages, rent, utilities. And we're talking particularly right now about the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan. And, a lot of my clients are asking, should I apply for it? Should I not? I've been given personally is, yes, go ahead and apply for it. It is a first come, first serve loan. But I have also talked to some business bankers out there who have stated that, yeah, you are correct. If you're using a smaller business or bank to do business with, the chances of your application going through as soon as like Chase and some other bigger banks, it's probably going to be delayed a little bit because they're having to build some platforms to really start accepting the loan process. And this is all taking place so quick. It's like every time you turn the news on, there's something different. But that's one thing I haven't thought a lot about is the tax strategy behind it. You said there's a tax credit available. Explain more about that.
Yeah. So basically what they're saying right now is that if you don't do the PPP, you could qualify for a tax credit. That is a pretty decent tax credit that would basically looks at the amount that you've paid your employees. As long as you don't reduce your workforce by a certain percentage, then you could qualify for a tax credit at the end of the year. You can't do both. You can't do the PPP loan and the tax credit. You have to do either one. There's two. The there's two sources that would be the most ideal sources to find the most up-to-date information. The US Treasury is where you can find information on the tax credit, and the SBA would be where you could find good information on the PPP. I know for us, we own a couple of businesses right now, and for us, it makes more sense to go to the PPP on one of them, and it makes more sense to lean towards the tax credit on the other one. Both of the businesses, in order to take advantage of them, requires us to keep our workforce going. And the whole idea, the whole stimulus package is designed to keep people off of unemployment. So basically, the government has decided that obviously it's more beneficial to keep people working, but it's going to be in their best interest as well to help small businesses retain employees than it is to be able to continue to fund or continue to put money into unemployment. So that's going to be kind of the thought process behind why they're stimulating the small businesses. I read an article this morning that was talking about the differences between the government bailout in 2008, 2009 and the government bailout now. And I didn't really think about it, but they made the point that in 2008, they were bailing out the large companies. And now they're really focusing in on the small companies. So the future is unknown. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know if what they're offering in terms of stimulus or bailout is even going to get us through. Even if we do get the PPP and you can pay your people for another 8 weeks, if in another 8 weeks we're still in this situation, then what are you going to do? That's part of the unknown, and there isn't anybody out there that does know. So that's the other challenging part too.
Yeah, it's very true. And, people watching out there, obviously from all different parts of the US, I'm in Texas, you're in Florida, but what is some advice you're giving to your business coaching clients as far as reaching out to some local sources to help get them through all these different options that are available for their business? What are you telling to your clients right now?
The main thing that I'm working with on clients right now is trying to figure out how much if they don't already know, trying to figure out how much it's costing to stay open, how much it's costing to keep people on board, how much of a hit the revenue is taken, and kind of looking at it from a little bit of that strategic standpoint. I also highly recommend everybody, business owners, to lean on their CPA. If you don't already have a good relationship with your CPA, this is a big reason why it's important. I know I've personally leaned very heavily on our CPA in terms of just trying to make the most educated decisions that we can. There's not a whole lot of advice that can be given to business owners right now. Just get all the information that you can and try to make the best decision that you can with what you have. I mean, that's pretty much at the end of the day, all any of us can do.
Yeah, it's all changing so quick, and I think leveraging definitely your CPA is important, and any other business relationships you have right now, because like I said, it's progressing different across the nation. And so I think about like mastermind groups, leaning on your business coach, maybe some other companies that and just calling other people out there and seeing what they're doing is important, but also somebody to kind of empathize with and share things that your business is going through is really important. So we know SBA.gov is a place for all the loan processing. We do recommend getting in on those sooner than later, because like you said, it's first come, first serve. Do local chambers, or is there anything locally that people should be leaning on?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So most states are doing different kinds of loans. Some states are doing grants. Obviously, all the states are going to be different. Before you apply for anything, make sure that you read all the fine print, because there's some loans that if you apply for one loan, it automatically disqualifies you for another. So, gather all of your information and do your research, and then just make sure that if you're getting ready to apply for a loan, that it doesn't disqualify you for another one that you want also. So be careful there. Um, Chambers, I know our local chamber has been really helpful getting information out to business owners. It's just a matter of resources. Here's resources on this and resources on that, and it's really helpful to be able to have that organization going out and finding all this information out here and kind of curating it down to things that are useful and credible. I think credible information is probably the biggest thing that we can drive home. Not every post on Facebook might have the credibility that it needs. So just check your source when you're trying to make big decisions like this, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there's so much information right now when people are working from home. So just kind of going to that, what's some advice we'd be giving our small business owners now that we're, week 4 to 5 into this COVID-19 crisis? What are some things besides the financial and the loan process, but is there anything else you're sharing with your clients that they should be doing right now to help better their business if they're in that position?
Yeah, if cash flow wise, they're in a good position, or they're not significantly sales wise affected by this. This is a great time to look at some of the bigger pictures of the business, look at some of the systems, look at some of the culture. This is a time for companies to come together as a team. So yeah, if you're not in a situation where you're struggling cash flow wise, it is a great time to be working on some of those bigger strategic things. The other thing that I think is important too is when we do come out on the other side of this, which we will eventually, we just don't know when that is yet. There's going to be a handful of things that I think we're going to put on a little bit more higher priority in our business strategic plan. I think one of those is going to be knowing, having a higher cash reserve, having higher amounts in cash that we can easily get to, so that if something like this, which we hope that nothing like this ever happens again, but if something like this happens or something happens to your business individually, we've got more than just that small cushion. We have a bigger cushion. I think that's going to take a higher priority on the other side of this. And I also think that the other thing that's going to take a higher priority is knowing what your individual costs are for your business, and knowing what it costs to keep personnel on and keep a full team on. How much does that cost every month? Knowing what your overhead costs every month, knowing what those numbers are, so that if you are put in a situation again where you've had a significant hit in sales, you're really familiar with what your costs are and how much your cash is and how long you can go in the situation without making drastic changes. I would venture to say a lot of us were probably caught off guard because prior to this virus, the economy was really strong. Business was booming for sure. And so I think there's probably a lot of us that were caught off guard by this for sure.
Yeah, the economy good, people spending money. It was hard to see this coming, but for people out there watching, there's a lot of businesses who don't know their financials, who just kind of run based on their bank account. Do I have money in there? Should I purchase this type deal? So, what are some of the first steps, some takeaways people should take away from the conversation financially, that if they're in a place right now where they're on their last week or two of being able to cash flow their business, is there anything they can do now to really dive into the numbers to at least better understand what that looks like?
I mean, anytime that you're looking at the financials of a business, history will tell you everything that you need to know about how it could have been done, how it should have been done in terms of cash flow. So it's always good to look at historical numbers and have good numbers to look at. If you're down to the last week, there are actually a handful of things that you can do. I definitely recommend that you talk to your creditors now and come up with a plan with them now, rather than waiting until you're 30, 60, 90 days behind and then trying to negotiate or come up with a plan with them. Most creditors right now are understanding, they're lenient, they're empathetic, and they're working with businesses to help them. Some of them are extending payments, some of them are not charging late fees. They're doing what they can to work with business owners. So that is definitely one of the things that you can start doing now in order to prep for the next couple of weeks of however long this could go on. The other thing, I guess, that you really could do is evaluate whether or not obtaining a loan is the right thing to do in terms of extending. Is it smart to get into a loan? And if so, look at the things like the interest rate and the terms. I know our state right now is offering a loan through the state that you can get that's interest free for the first year, which is great. Interest free is great. However, if you don't pay it back at the end of the year, it's like 11% after that, which is pretty high. Now, one of the things with the SBA, the PPP loan, is if there are portions of that money that you don't use that's not forgiven, the interest rate is pretty low. It's like 0.5%, I think. And for a small business loan there's no collateral, there's no personal guarantee, there's very little paperwork, and there's hardly any fees, if any, I think, that you have to apply for it. Even if the amount of money isn't forgiven, even if it's used on expenses that aren't forgiven, at least it's a low interest rate. And for an unsecured business loan that is not private, that you're not having to personally guarantee, it's a pretty decent rate. So just, be thinking about that too. It's kind of one of those things where you have to make the decision about making a decision and moving forward, but making sure that you're educated enough that you're making a smart decision for what's right for your business and where you are right now.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's all about being proactive, because that's one of the discussions I had with one of my clients last week, was being proactive versus being reactive as a leader right now is really important. And what I love is one of my clients was going through and contacting all of his vendors and asking for a forgiveness for a few months of making payments, at the point even when he didn't even need to have that right now. He's just kind of preparing that. And what I love about this is not the fact that he had to do that, but the fact that he's thinking ahead, but also his character is really shining right now, because people are saying, hey, look, don't worry about it. I know that you're good for your money, and let's just push it out 3 months and catch back up then, or let's only pay the interest or something like that. They're able to work out things. And I think back to, right now more than ever, people are reaping what they sowed to a certain extent. And, if you lead by integrity, it's really starting to pay dividends right now. Because that's one thing about what we're going through, is everybody's going through it. It doesn't matter what size business you're in. My heart goes out to so many different people. And I was talking to a friend of mine last week who his whole family is affected by this. And when you start seeing that happen firsthand, that close to you, you realize how serious this actually is. And so this morning, I'm hoping that we could shed a little more light. Kristen, I know that you're really great into systems for companies and to writing processes and procedures. Is there anything right now that your clients are focusing on in that realm? If they have some downtime, are you giving them like a downtime checklist, some things they can be doing during this time?
I think that, downtime in this particular instance, especially if you're trying to keep people busy, if you've got a staff that you are keeping on board and your sales are down, so you're trying to keep people busy, this is a great time to be cleaning up and decluttering anything from desks and offices to vans and trucks to warehouses to hard drives on computers. This is a nice time to be going through and kind of getting rid of things and organizing and cleaning up. You may not notice as much. Typically, when I'm working with people on systems, a lot of times we'll attack frustrations first so that we can solve the frustration problem, whatever that happens to be. Usually it revolves around not having a good system, so we kind of start there. However, if sales are down and there's not really much going on, then there might not, those frustrations might not be surfacing quite like they did when business was normal. So that may not be probably the most ideal place to start, but it's another place that you can start when you're doing systems is just going down everybody's team member commitment is what I'm thinking, but job description. Going down everybody's jobs descriptions and making sure that everybody's really clear and tight and knows what they're supposed to be doing and knows what the expectations are, and kind of working on it from that standpoint. And those that are working but may not have much to do could be documenting their own systems of what they're doing. But I would definitely say to be careful with that, because if you're asking people to go around and document everything that they're doing and then in a couple of weeks you lay them off, that might not feel quite so right, because now you have a written training system on what, on how to do the job, and hopefully you would bring them back, so anyway, you have to hear
Yeah, and that's so true. I like that. I like the idea of going back to your position agreement with your team and just kind of going through each line item and seeing, do we have a system built for your position all the way around? And it leads me to a good point too to be thinking about is people working from home right now. Is there any advice that you can give for people? Because one thing I've seen is that a lot of business owners don't really know how to hold their team accountable when they're at home, and there's a lot of wasted time going on between answering phone calls and things. So, is there any key advice you've been giving to really maximize working from home?
For me personally, I work from home already. The main thing that I think that I've really come to grips with over the last couple of weeks, especially with the kids being here and starting online classes and just everything is kind of upside down as it is just having a little grace with myself and a little grace with my schedule. And I'm still getting my work done. It's just not in the same time frame or boundaries that it would have been before. Before, when we were on a normal schedule, even though I work from home, I really tried to follow a schedule, and I tried to keep my work during work times and, not in the evenings on the weekends. But now I'm just kind of offering myself a little bit of flexibility. And I think that business owners who have people who are working at home, especially if they have kids at home and additional people in the house that normally aren't there, to just offer some grace and flexibility, but be checking in with them, be doing Zoom calls, be checking in on a very, very regular basis. When you are used to working in an office environment and all of a sudden you're working at home by yourself, it could be very isolating. So the more often that you can check in as a group online, the better, to kind of keep everybody engaged and connected. And yes, you're going to have a reduction in productivity. That's all there is to it. It's just that's what's happening right now. So being a little bit flexible, offering some grace, and some understanding and some empathy that this is all crazy and different, I think would go a long way from the leadership standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that you send them home and you don't expect anything out of them. But I think that flexibility is key for sure here.
Yeah, it really is. It really is key, because I think just like in your business, when things are good, it kind of hides some of the inefficiencies, so to say. I think in leadership, when things are good, it hides some of your inefficiencies. And when things like something like this happens, your true colors really come out as a leader. And part of that is showing that empathy and listening and being there for your team. And I agree. I think a morning virtual huddle with your team, setting some kind of agenda for the day. They should be bringing some kind of goal they have for the day to accomplish, maybe doing one in the afternoons to kind of check out with your team to make sure their day went well. But you're right. I mean, in this time more than ever, we have to have flexibility. We have to realize that family is going to interrupt the day somewhere, but we can't just completely turn a blind eye to it and say it is what it is too. So having that balance really is key. And so in wrapping this discussion up, Kristen, just share a few more words that you wanted to get out there for business owners to be thinking about or doing during this time?
Yeah, I mean, we're all in this together, and I know everybody's saying it, but it's true. We're all taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and we will get out of it. There will be the other end. We will start to see sales again, and we will start to see people outside of their homes and spending money again. But we just kind of have to be patient and throttle our intake of current events to a manageable amount so that we're not completely overwhelmed, and we just take it day by day and do the best we can.
It's so true. For everybody watching out there, how can people get in contact with you, Kristen?
My email address is Kristen, Kristen, at gcbcoaching.com, which I can drop in the comments on the Facebook Live when we're done here. If anybody ever has any questions about any of this, I can certainly do my very best to help you answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will definitely point you in a direction of somebody who may be able to help. We're here trying to support the businesses as best as we can. And we understand that at this point, there are no experts. We're all just trying to figure it out. So I'm certainly glad to share as much information and what we've done and learned, and what we've implemented, and what we've tried and that didn't work, and just to help people get through these next couple of months.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, we're all wanting to give. That's why we're on Facebook Live this morning, getting out of our comfort zone, sharing with people out there, letting them know that we do empathize with them, and we're all in this together. And they can reach me at dan@builtforthetrades.com. If you ever have any questions, just want to talk about business or leadership. But Kristen, thank you so much for being on the day. I hope you have a great week.
Yeah,
thank you everybody for watching. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.